and gentlemen, good evening, great leaders and great scholars. Wow, our first session of 2026. We are here, we are opening with a big bang. I know that obviously we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. So many people have been sending messages. Prof, when are we starting? We are starting tonight. We are very happy and we are very excited that we are starting our session of 2026. We had a wonderful 2025. You know that our Professor Mpedi is going to be opening tonight. He has been doing these, I think, for the last 3 years now. Every year everywhere we ask him to open the session for us. So last year he was talking something about dojo or lessons learned from karate or from so along those lines. And tonight he's speaking about the integrity as a leadership strategy. That's what we'll be talking about tonight. So we had a very good year last year. We actually covered every week we're here, except obviously those 2 weeks around December. But other than that, out of 52 weeks of the year, we covered 50 weeks. 50 weeks we were here, and we were addressed by superb scholars and great leaders. You're talking about, as I've said, Professor Mpedi, Professor Tinyugo Malulega was here, Advocate Tembega, and Toby was here. We had so many great leaders that spoke to us last year. And again, in 2026, it's going to be the same because, as you know, you attend these sessions, you attend this platform, there is no way you will not come again or join us, because obviously we are leaders in leadership. We are really very passionate about leadership. My name is Mazwe Majola. I'm from the Worldwide Institute of Leadership and Development. We are really passionate and compassionate about leadership. We train, we develop, we coach leaders. We've produced great leaders. Anything that has to do with leadership and governance, we are there. So every week we meet with great leaders, and we started this platform in 2020 in the midst of COVID, when we really wanted to encourage and inspire leaders during that very difficult time. So we have been here ever since. We've never stopped meeting every week. And I'm so humbled, as I say every week, that the quality and the caliber of speakers that we get, and also the quality and caliber of participants, because here, as I'm saying, that it's leaders talking to other leaders, it's leaders inspiring other leaders, you know. So welcome, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to our members and our regulars. I see most of you here. I'm not going to mention your names because of time constraint, but I would have loved to mention your name, because we are here, we are standing, and we are here because of you. We've been attending these sessions almost every week. But a special welcome to those colleagues who are joining us for the first time. If you are here for the first time, thank you so much, and we are most welcome. And please do participate and feel at home. This is a safe space for leaders where we just encourage each other, we correct each other, we inspire each other, we empower each other and admonish each other wherever possible. Because as we say that, we just want to correct this leadership deficit that we're finding ourselves in. and then we just want to make sure that leaders, especially those who attend these our sessions, are empowered and are inspired to lead wherever you are, to lead in a right way. So thank you so much. Please feel at home. We do have our YouTube channels, and you can check all our past videos there. Whenever you want to check, you can go there. I'm not going to waste any time. As I said, that we are joined by our professor, my brother, Professor Mpedi, who was part of us, and he has been talking to us. We always invite him to open the year for us, and we've never failed. We've never failed, really. My brother, Prof, thank you so much for your humility. You're always available whenever we need you here. You do participate, and thank you so much. You know this platform now. So we give you time to address us now. But just for the sake of those colleagues who are joining us for the first time, we are going to give the speaker time to address us. And then once he has addressed us, we can then ask questions, or we can get into conversation. You are definitely welcome to participate, whether it's your first time or not. Don't be diffident, don't be shy. We just there is a button there, or that it's a hand button where you can just ask, or rather raise your hand, or you can do it via our chat room. So thank you so much. My professor, Professor Mpedi, is a vice chancellor and principal of one of the biggest universities, not only in South Africa, but in Africa and in the world. I was trying to check the numbers, Prof, of students, especially the intake that you've been. I was looking at UJ, VETS, UP, and all. I'm not going to be divulging numbers, but what I can just say, UJ is a very big university, and thank you so much for the good work that you are doing, Prof Mpedi. Over to you, my brother. Here are your people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof Majola, for this opportunity and for the wonderful introduction. Good evening to you, Prof, and good evening to fellow leaders, loyal leaders. I see familiar faces, and let me also welcome colleagues that may be joining this platform for the first time. And, please be regulars. This is an important platform. I also see colleagues from the University of Johannesburg and friends. Thank you so much for your support. It's never late, Let me use this opportunity to wish us only the very best for the year, for 2026. Let me start with a disclaimer. I am not a priest. I see there are reverends here. I'm not a theologian. I chose this topic as somebody that believes strongly that, leadership lessons are everywhere. Prof always invites me. Prof, I hope I won't run out of ideas. I've been dying to speak on this topic, and I always avoided talking about matters that concern matters of religion, because people are sensitive about issues that concern religion. But this year, I thought, no, let me touch about something that is close to my heart, and with this disclaimer, I hope people will understand. I'm not here to try and convert anyone. I'm just going to talk about something that inspires me as a Christian. And as I said, inspiration is everywhere. So with that disclaimer, I'm not claiming to be holier than anyone else. I'm a sinner that always tries, to get those prayers, to be forgiven. And sometimes I forget to pray before I eat. So with those few words, I'm saying I'm not perfect. So with this topic, I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anyone else. I'm just saying inspiration is everywhere. And please, colleagues, those of us that are Christians, there is a lot of wisdom from the Holy Bible. And for me, I get a lot of wisdom from the Holy Bible, particularly from the book of Proverbs. Without any waste of time, I thought of, ladies and gentlemen, sharing with you the inspiration that I find from the book of Proverbs. I chose this topic, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope we'll find enough for us to have this conversation later. Let me get going. Ladies and gentlemen, in my various explorations of leadership sources, I have come to understand that leadership can be informed by diverse sources. In recent years, I've looked at African proverbs and I've shared my perspectives on these platforms. And I have, after I've shared those perspectives, Prof Majola, I thank you very much, you and leaders here and this platform. This inspired me to publish a book which I called from the baobab to the mosquito. It looks like this, and this book has done well. Proceeds from this book went into a bursary fund that supported a number of students at the University of Johannesburg. And later on, after being invited, I talk about leadership inspiration, from the animal kingdom, and that resulted in a book that was published last year, which I called From Predator to Prey. It was published late last year, and it looks like this, ladies and gentlemen. But I also address leaders, on inspiration from various sources. Last year, I addressed a conference at UJ, which is a summit that happens every year, which is called Combating Corruption. We know corruption is a problem. And there I got inspiration from pirates, from the Pirates Code and the Mafia Code, of Ometa. I'm not condoning criminality. And there I said, even pirates, even the mafia have a code. They have a line. What's wrong with this corruption that we're seeing where people do not even have codes? They just steal from the poor. They have no line that they don't cross. We need to draw a line in the sand. So inspiration is everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. That is my starting point. Today, fellow leaders, my source traces back to the Bible, the holy book. What connects these proverbs to seemingly desperate sources from outlaws to scripture is that each offers a code for navigating complex human dynamics. As I've long argued, my leadership ethos is informed by my own experience. Ladies and gentlemen, experience is the best teacher. As leaders, we should never shy away from learning from our experiences, be they bad or good. We must always learn from this saying that experience is the best teacher. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I offer these principles as frameworks that have shaped how I think, decide, and lead. We all bring our backgrounds, our cultures, our upbringings, and our formative experiences into the rooms where we lead. Please remember this, leaders. The question isn't whether we should do this. We already do, whether consciously or not. The question is rather whether we are intentional about it, whether we have examined what we carry with us, and whether we are willing to share those foundations openly so others can understand what we do and why we do it. This, fellow leaders, is an invitation to understand the roots of my leadership approach, even if your roots look entirely different. And I'm not claiming to be perfect, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just sharing what inspires me so that we can learn from each other. Leaders, as Bill George writes in True North, and I quote, the first step to knowing your purpose is to understand your life story. We all face times of crisis, pain, or rejection in our lives. Reflecting on the life you have lived helps you discover your true north, the beliefs, values, and principles most important to you, close quote. Ladies and gentlemen, growing up, the church was a big part of my identity. It continues to be. Sunday school wasn't just a weekly obligation. It was where I first learned to grapple with questions bigger than myself, where I sat on hard wooden benches and listened to stories that seemed on the surface but revealed, that seemed simple, rather, on the surface, but revealed layers of meaning the more I thought about them. Among all the books we studied, the book of Proverbs stood out to me. Unlike other biblical texts that dealt in grand narratives of miracles and prophets, Proverbs spoke in a different register that was practical and, in a sense, almost businesslike. As I moved from those Sunday school benches into the world of work and then roles of leadership and responsibility, I found myself returning to Proverbs again and again, ladies and gentlemen. This was not out of religious obligation. The principles held up under pressure, and I began to understand that religion at its crux is a moral and values foundation. It is a framework for making sense of complexity and choosing how to act when no one is watching. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership lessons can be gained from all religious teachings, precisely because they've wrestled with the fundamental questions of human character across millennia. I honed my understanding of leadership by recognizing that integrity, or the alignment between values and actions, is the thread that runs through all these diverse sources. I often draw from my experiences to shape my leadership approach. But what works for me may not work for someone else. Still, I have found success with this method. In my writing, I frequently reflect on my childhood, such as my journey from being a reckless street fighter to becoming a disciplined karateka. Last year, I talked about leadership lessons from the dojo. I'm sure many of you will remember that discussion that we had last year, and I hope I'll find time to write a book, on those leadership lessons, because I think there are profound leadership lessons from that experience. The African proverbs I grew up with, which resulted in the book that I showed you earlier, this one, From the Baobab to the Mosquito. My experiences hunting birds with my friends at my village in the Hammanskraal area, enjoying morekwa. Many of you may not know morekwa. This is the brandy bush, or in English also called velvet raisin, very sweet. And taking family trips to the Kruger National Park, which inspired the other book, From Predator to Prey, have all provided valuable lessons for my leadership. Leaders, please remember, leadership inspiration is everywhere. Just open your eyes, listen. You will find those leadership, lessons and principles and everywhere, sitting just around us, just waiting for us, to absorb them. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to explore integrity not as an abstract virtue, but as a concrete leadership strategy, drawing insights from the Book of Proverbs. Now, the Book of Proverbs is remarkable in its practicality. Written largely as advice from a father to his son, it doesn't deal just in theological concepts, but in the day-to-day realities of human interaction, commerce, governance, and character. It can be seen as a manual for living wisely in a complex world, leaders. Growing up, and I'm embarrassed by this, but I'm going to share this with you. I was quite a mischievous child. It may not suit me today, but I was indeed a mischievous child. But Sundays were strictly reserved for church leaders. Although I was easily distracted, the Book of Proverbs resonated deeply with me when I attended Sunday school. In fact, it was the wisdom in those verses that helped me confront my unscrupulous ways, leaders. I will never forget confessing to my mother that I had stolen the money she gave us for the church offering. Before we left for church, my mother would give my siblings and me about 10 cents each to place in the offering plate. Instead of contributing the full amount, I would stop at the local supermarket on the way to church, buy sweets with the offering money, and return with the bare minimum change, just half a cent. And many of you leaders who, are old enough, I'm not that old, but, I lived in an era where one could still get a half a cent. It was discontinued from circulation around 1983 in South Africa. So we had half a cent. So I'll spend the rest and keep the bare minimum half a cent, which I reserved, to contribute, when the church plate was circulated. So one Sunday in Sunday school, we learned about integrity from Proverbs 10, verse 9, which reads, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out, ladies and gentlemen. That afternoon, I confessed to my mother, and I must admit, I received a good hiding. Being the great leader she is, my mother responded decisively. She stopped giving us money for the offering before church, and unfortunately, I had eroded all the trust, for all of us. Instead, the money was handed to each sibling only when the offering plate was about to be passed around. Ladies and gentlemen, Proverbs 14 verse 4 states, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. When I confessed, my mother didn't just punish me, she redesigned the system. In doing so, she closed the loophole I had exploited, putting her own form of risk management into place. But it was the work ethic versus that truly shaped how I approached responsibility. Throughout my career, leaders, I have come to understand that leaders who show up consistently and model diligence even when no one's watching build cultures where excellence becomes the baseline. There are other strong examples that can be applied to leadership settings. Proverbs 22 verse 1 says, a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold, leaders. In leadership terms, this is about reputational capital. Your name is your brand, and your credibility, and thus opens doors that money cannot. I've seen leaders sacrifice their reputation for a win, only to find that no one trusts them anymore. Maybe I should say for a quick win, only to find that no one trusts them anymore for the rest of their lives. Conversely, I've watched leaders walk away from profitable opportunities that didn't align with their values, and within months, better opportunities emerged. It is not a myth that your reputation precedes you. Proverbs 11 verse 3 outlines, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Leaders, this is about decision-making clarity. When you have integrity and when your values are clear and non-negotiable, decisions become simpler. You know what you won't compromise on. Leaders without this clarity exhaust themselves and often their teams by reinventing their principles with every new situation. Proverbs 16 verse 8 states that better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice, speaks to sustainable success. We do read about environments where leaders pursue growth at any cost. The long-term costs are catastrophic, we know it. They include high turnover, lawsuits, damaged relationships, and regulatory scrutiny. Meanwhile, organizations built on solid foundations, leaders such as treating people fairly, delivering genuine value, and being transparent about limitations might grow more slowly, but I can tell you, they do so steadily and sustainably. Proverbs 12 verse 22 states, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. If you strip away the theological language, this can be viewed as organizational psychology, leaders. Trust is the currency of leadership. I repeat, trust is the currency of leadership. You cannot lead people who don't trust you. Never. And trust is built through consistency between what you say and what you do. Every time you are caught in a lie, this trust is jeopardized. Proverbs 27 verse 17 reads, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. This, leaders, is about building teams where integrity enables candor. In high integrity environments, people challenge each other's thinking and deliver hard truths because they trust the underlying relationship. In low integrity environments, people avoid conflict and let bad ideas go unchallenged because they don't trust that honesty will be received well or that they'll be safe after speaking up. The sharpening only happens when there's a foundation of mutual respect and trustworthiness. Leaders, Proverbs 13 verse 4 tells us, the sluggard craves and get nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. This is really about the gap between aspiration and execution. Leaders often articulate brilliant visions and express genuine passion for transformation with ambitious goals, yet nothing changes. In other words, leaders, they wanted the outcome without committing to the process. Craving isn't the same as doing. An effective leader breaks down this vision into actionable steps and allocates resources toward it. I learned this early when my mother closed the loophole I'd exploited with the offering money. She didn't just want honest children. She built a system that made honesty the path of least resistance. Proverbs 14 verse 23 says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. In leadership, we are often earnestly rewarded just for appearing busy or for crafting compelling presentations. But talk, leaders, without execution is hollow. Leadership is about focused effort that produces tangible outcomes. As I understand this proverb, the profit isn't always financial. Sometimes it's trust and or capability built. It is the result of doing. Finally, Proverbs 6, verse 6 up to verse 11 instructs, go to an end, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provides her meat in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. Leaders, the end doesn't need external motivation or constant supervision. She anticipates future needs and acts accordingly. In leadership terms, this is about building cultures where people don't wait to be told what to do. In high-performing teams, individuals see what needs doing and then act. The end's wisdom, colleagues, is about hard work, but it is also about autonomous judgment and foresight. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not here to preach or convert anyone, as I already indicated at the beginning. Whether you are a person of faith or not, the principles we are discussing transcend their source, ladies and gentlemen. The Book of Proverbs has endured for millennia, not because of its theological claims, but because it captures timeless observations about human nature and the long-term consequences of our choices. As Peter Ricky Gaithel praises it, and I quote, religion serves as the backbone of ethics, values, and morals, thus cornerstone of societies. The essence of religion is to guide spiritual and personal beliefs, close quote. What matters, my dear colleagues, is whether these principles or insights help us lead more effectively and create environments where people and organizations thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders, dear friends, let me stop there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much, my professor. Thank you so much. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it, and now it's time to engage and to ask questions as already I've said, I see a hand there from my brother Abel. I'll come to you, just Abel. Let me just see on the chat room there. We've got Professor Chioma. Professor Chioma is joining us from Nigeria. Said, good evening, distinguished leaders and colleagues. I'm glad. Are you clear? Oh, I can't see you here, Prof. But I'm glad to be here to learn from Africa's best. Welcome to our Pan-Africa Vice Chancellor. Indeed, thank you so much. And then we are, I think it's just been Professor there. Abel says he pressed the click the wrong button. Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to ask the Abel. So instead of pressing the another button, he pressed another button. But that's fine. Thank you so much, my professor. Thank you very much for reminding us that indeed leadership inspiration is everywhere. You can just look around. As a leader, you'll be inspired. Comes from home, from your own parents, from your siblings, whether if you go to church, at churches, at school, your teacher, your principal, everywhere will inspire you. And that is why we are here as leaders. And if you can't get that, obviously you'll be definitely obsolete. We always say in this platform, leadership, it's a journey. Leadership, it's not a destination. If you want to be a great leader, you've got to constantly develop yourself. My professor, let me start with you as other colleagues are coming for their questions. Yes, probably we're not going to spend more time on the Book of Proverbs. I agree with you. It's just a reference so that we don't curtail people, those who want to ask questions or engage, those who are not familiar with the Proverbs. So it's not about quoting verses here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's about just leadership. So you can ask anything that has to do with leadership. But thank you so much. If you're being inspired to go back and read the Proverbs, that would be even, that would be even superb as well. Prof, we are starting 2026. What is your observation as we start the year in terms of maybe what is coming as leaders, what we must prepare ourselves for, and then how we can navigate 2026 dynamics and challenges, whether you also draw inspiration from the Book of Proverbs or just general. Any thoughts there, my professor?
Thank you very much, Prof. And also let me also thank the leaders for their kind words. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit philosophical. You know, as leaders, gone are the days where we take things at face values. Things are not always what they, you know, they are what they seem to be. You know, you cannot take anything for granted anymore. So we need to be more resilient. The point I'm trying to make that you cannot take anything for granted anymore. You know that things are what they are. You know, taking them at face value. We need to really be more resilient and build our organizations to be more resilient. Build our teams to be more resilient. Check in more often, support each other more often, not take things at face value anymore. You cannot take anything for granted anymore, you know. Be it life, health, organizational stability, organizational health, things are not what they seem to be anymore. You cannot take anything for granted anymore. You should not, but today, do not take anything for granted. You know, we should build for resilience, organizational resilience. Succession planning, don't take it for granted anymore. Procrastination, if you'd say, look, I will, get going, get things in place. We cannot take things for granted. Resilience, making sure that things are in place. Things that used to happen, after a very long time. Today they happen just like this. Be it global warming. Look at how often we see these floods. Certain floods that used to happen after every 10 years, they are happening almost every second week. Just if I were just to take floods. So you cannot take anything for granted anymore.
Thank you, my professor. Thank you very much. Definitely, you've assisted us there. Because indeed, I mean, as leaders, it's very easy just to take things for granted. You might think that we've been in the game for many years. No, I've been a leader for the last 20 years, for the last 30 years. So you think that you know it all, but no, you've got always to be on your toes because anything can happen. We've seen great leaders going down or falling.
Yeah.
That is why we are saying that leadership, it's a journey. You must protect it. You must make sure that you really obviously protect your competency and your character and values as well. Thank you. I see a question there from the chat through. Professor Chioma, I don't know. I know that you're in Nigeria. You are joining us from Nigeria. I don't know if you are able to talk there. If you do, you can make your point or question. But before I come to you, I see a question there from my brother, Dr. Mike Masiapoto. Just an advert. Mike will be addressing us next week. He's a commissioner at the Border Management Authority. You've seen the good work they've done there in the borders. So he'll be taking us through next week. But the dynamics, the challenges, and successes, what is happening there in our borders, just to know what is happening. So we are so glad that he's here tonight. Brother Mike, do you want to express yourself on this question, or you want me to read it for you? If you want, maybe if you want us to hear your voice, you can go ahead, my brother, and ask the question.
No, great. No, thanks, Prof. Let's really appreciate the great lessons we just heard now from Professor Mpedi. Is very much great hearing him. I was at UJ at some point with him. So basically, my question here is a very sophisticated one, and the issue is, how do you strive and stand and resilient and be ethically grounded while surrounded by a highly unethical system, whether in the form of colleagues that you work with in whatever environment you're in, or just the environment itself is highly polluted, where you have a highly factionalized kind of an environment, and finding that those factions are also based on very hectic, selfish intents. So, how do you thrive as a leader? How do you thrive in that kind of an environment? So, basically, that's the question I'm raising. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a tricky question. I always say to people, let your values, guide you. Let the people know where you stand. Unethical people, as unethical as they may be, once they know where they stand with you, they will never mess around with you. They will tell you straight, that with that one, you're wasting your time. And at some point, you may have to make a call that you leave that unethical environment, or people respect you for being ethical. And then they will do their own things there. They will never come to you. I'll give you an example. There's a case where I shouldn't, make references. I'll just be in general terms, where this fellow was applying for a top senior role where okay, I won't hide it. I'll tell you, it's me. When I applied for this job, it's a fact. You get people running around saying, hey, there's this group that wants to meet with you. There is this other group that wants to meet you. I told them straight, I said, look, whether I get this job or not, I'm happy to meet with anyone. But after, whether I get the job or not, after this process has been concluded, and before that, I'm not going to meet with anyone. And if getting this job means I have to meet with groups, I don't want the job. And I'm telling you, I'm glad I never met with groups, because I'm not beholden to anyone. I owe no one anything. This is how, even today, I don't belong to any group. I do my job without any fear or favor. You go and meet with groups, then people think they owe you or they own you. You'll not be able to do your job. This is how I am. I remember somebody joking was that, hey, you are too rigid to the point that people think you are rigid, and said, this is how I am. And I also said to my wife, if getting this job means I have to meet with little groups, groups here, there is this group there, there is this group, then I don't want it. So this is how it is. People need to know where they stand, and people know, even now, people come with these little stories they want to meet, or they know. Now we have, it's the registration period. You write to me, you ask me for, oh, you know what, my daughter, this and that. They know. I forward you to the people who deal with this thing. There are people who deal with this thing. They won't do any special favors. They will look in the system, where is the waiting list? They will explain to you how it works, and that's it. If your daughter happens to be next on the list, they will tell you it's next on the list. They will not do anything or special favors. So my answer would be that stick to your principles, and people will know that this is how things work. Because once you get involved in groups, and then you are on this and that, it will never end. And once you get compromised, then it never stops. Then that's it. But I know there are certain environments where you cannot operate. Once people do things that are not aligned with your values, then I think it's time now to say goodbye to that organization, because we know today people get killed. If you don't sign, then if it threatens your life, then my advice would be, then it's not worth it. Then move on and look for another job. I hope I've answered you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm not saying it's like that in your workplace, but I'm just saying in general terms, you do get it. Whistleblowers get attacked for doing what is right and all those things. And this is how it is. And in this case, you get people calling you at night, and all those people want to meet in dark places. I block you. If you call me about things that do not make sense to me, their processes, I block you. That's it.
Thank you, my professor. Thank you very much. Professor Chioma, are you able to express yourself there? As I said, that you are joining us from Nigeria. How's the connectivity there? Are you able to talk? Over to you, Prof.
Yes, good evening, Professor Majola, and thank you so much, the Vice Chancellor of UJ, for this insightful presentation. I'm a leader in my own university as a head of department, and I can attest to the fact that the VC has touched on everything that has to do with credible leadership. And my question goes like this, sir. VC, sir, how do we handle scheming colleagues who would stop at nothing to tarnish the image of an upright leader who is delivering on tasks and targets, using unfounded lies, falsehood, destructive criticisms in meetings and teamwork? Sometimes this embattled leader fights to prove their integrity, credibility, accountability, and transparency, which will definitely leave them drained, demotivated, frustrated, and feeling like quitting. How does this leader cope amidst this confusion? Visisa, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Prof, you have touched on something that is destroying people every day. You know, I saw something on one of the social media platform, a meme, but it's posted as a meme, but it's serious, where it says jealousy is the last class before witchcraft. Professional jealousy is real out there. People will come with all sorts of ways to try and derail you, to try and undermine you when you're doing well, to undermine top performers, come up with lies and so on. You know, I personally have experienced that a lot in my career. And it can be draining. It can be draining. But now, one thing that I would say on this platform is that as tough as it is, sometimes one should not give this, should not pay attention to some of these things, because the truth comes out eventually. The time you spend entertaining these lies and so on is the time that you could be spending on things that matter. Running a university, running a department. The truth does come out, you know. I can tell you, I saw it often again and again. And then when the truth does come out, those people that were running around lying, they get so exposed and their credibility gets destroyed forever. It needs it takes, you know, courage, you know, strength and support, surrounding yourself with credible people. People know you as a person, not necessarily you, but as an individual. They know what type of person you are. When people start lying about an individual, there are people who would see that Professor X will never do this. In my career, I had to deal with cases where people were accused of horrible things that almost destroyed their families. Sexual harassment, you know, fabricated stories because they just want to destroy a good person. It takes strong leadership to get to the bottom of these things. And when the truth comes out, I can tell you, you know, it destroys the very same people that come up with these lies. And on a brighter side, sometimes, you know, if you're going nowhere, you'll never be targeted. It's a measure of showing that you are making good progress. As they say, a dog never bites at a car that is standing still. So it's a measure of showing that one is doing something good. We should pray for these people. They are not happy people. And never entertain them. I like what my Ghanaian friends and colleagues say. They say, don't mind them. Keep on walking. The truth always comes out. I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you. My professor, thank you so much. I think there is a question there from Abel. Abel, do you want to express yourself? And after that, we'll take Dr. Kumamangisa. But let's start with my brother there, Abel. Abel, over to you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Prof. Too. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you so much, Prof, for such timeless lessons there. And these lessons are really just timeless. They go through generations and generations. And, you know, we find ourselves gravitating back to the same lessons to deal with current challenges. And so my question really is, particularly in these seasons of change and rapid change that we're in, how do we then practically take these timeless lessons and apply them and make them relevant to the context in which we are facing today? Thanks, Prof.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, good question. This exercise that we're doing now, it's one of those, you know, interventions, if I could call them that, to debate and engage like this, that we make them practical. I was discussing this with a good colleague of mine the other day who was saying, we need to have this type of discussions to also make these lessons relevant for the African saying, because they are timeless, so that they can move with our times and engage, and reflect, And my hope is that with reflections like this, we will make them more relevant for our times. I hope time permits, down the line, despite my heavy workload, it is my dream and desire to write a book, on leadership lessons just from these, and see, what one maybe can put together, out of this, and hopefully other leaders could also give it their own, touch. I'm sure we can learn a lot, from each other, and just applying these timeless principles. I fully agree with you. There are lots of changes. We need to make sure that these principles, filter through and get interpreted also for the benefit of the next generation. The young generation doesn't read. They want things that they can consume quickly on social media, and we need to change that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Prof. Thank you very much. My brother there, Dr. Mangisa, over to you, sir.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Prof Majola, and a big thank you to the VC there. This is a mobilization to us as we are sitting in this group, VC, listening to you. You are actually saying to us, let there be integrity amongst us here as leaders. Let the canvas be ethical leadership and nothing else. But where I'm driving this VC, my belief or understanding is that you cannot separate ethical leadership or ethicality, integrity with consciousness. NgesiZulu unembeza within the person, ngesixhosa isazela. That when there is no ethicality within a person, when there is no integrity, it means that there is absolutely nothing, when we talk about consciousness. Now, the question, therefore, VC is, from your experience, where there is lack thereof of consciousness, which leads to lack of integrity and lack of ethicality or ethical leadership. From your experience, to rejuvenate, isazela unembezo, what have you done, or what is it, what is it that we can do to rejuvenate that for us to reignite unembeza, isazela, consciousness within us as leaders. Thank you, VC.
Thank you so much. I mean, you have nailed it, this issue, the real issue. It's leading by example, walking the talk, There are lots of leaders that have this thing of do as I say, not do as I do. I've got a colleague who's from the Devon area, who says there's nothing. He used to be a comrade. He says in the Devon area in the 80s, they used to say there's nothing you can tell somebody who has Isa Musa Emlunye. Somebody who already has been given something. Hey, there's not much you can tell the person. So if you have a leader that already has Isa Musa Emlunye, somebody who already has a sweet in the mouth, somebody who already has something in the pocket, there's nothing you can do. You get leaders who talk about, hey, we must tighten the belt. but their belts are, are not tight. Then it becomes a problem. We must lead by example, walk the talk. Otherwise, it's a problem, especially for the young ones. And we must catch them early. I lead a university, and I'm quick, to tell them. Yesterday, I went to one of our campuses and I met one of the young leaders. Our young kids, not all, but one of the young leaders, didn't, use the word please, the way the person was talking. Sometimes I give people the UJ socks. We've got bright orange UJ socks. Our color is orange. The young leader was like, you came here empty-handed, how dare you come here empty-handed without giving us the orange socks? I'm like, we're not entitled to any orange socks. I won't give you, what happened to please, and all that. Our kids don't know please. I was raised by a strict mother. That hiding, I was telling the honest truth. I got a serious hiding. I'm not saying now we should give people a hiding, no. But we need to guide our kids. We were raised to understand that every elder is your parent. Today, you scold someone's child, you'd get a long letter from a lawyer. How dare you, Mpedi? We need to go back to basics. What we're doing now as a university, our leaders, young leaders, we know that these kids, when they graduate, they are going into bigger offices. One day they will be running the country. We've got leadership courses for them. So it's important that we also catch them young, teach them the right way. Us as parents, our kids, we should stop, celebrating them when they misbehave, We need to guide them. Some of the teachings that I have shared, is the truth. When my mother stopped that, I'm like, and my mother went to school up to standard 1. And I wrote a chapter in one of the books I co-edited for Celebrating Women, where I say my mother never went to school up to all these big grades that people are celebrating, but my mother was my first law lecturer. And I also said my mother was my first leadership teacher. I did an executive program at one of the best, and I'm not bragging, I'm just using this to put context here, this into a particular course. I went to the Said Business School at Oxford University, but my best and first and best executive leader was my mother, Prof Majola. I mean, here, when I shortchanged, the church and the Lord, she gave me a serious hiding. She changed the processes, all the risk management. She did everything to make sure that I don't, shortchange everyone anymore. She put all the mitigating strategies in place and everything. And guess what? I never, shortchanged anyone again in the church, And I learned from that process to the point that now I'm 51 years old. I remember what happened when I was like 8 years. This is how impactful that was. So I don't want to go on and on. So we need to teach people early in the most, constructive of ways so that they do not repeat this, because these young people are the future. Yes, the 80-year-olds that still steal, from government and so on, we can jail them, but there's not much that we can do to change. But we need to catch these young people early, and we can lead by example. Long answer, but I hope it adds, towards all these measures we need to put in place.
Thank you, Visi.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mangisa. Thank you, my brother. I think I saw a question there in the chat room. Andre Young, Bible, Proverbs, the Book of Proverbs. This is an excellent conversation to start. You want to express yourself there, Andre, but to hold on, I just want to check more here, then I'll give you the platform. Then Noma Swazi, Tombeni, I also think that we need to strengthen solidarity amongst us in order to tackle some of these issues. We are more powerful when we are united. Absolutely. Thanks, Swazi. Andre will be the last one. After Andre, I will ask Professor Zide to thank the speaker, then we close the session. Over to you, my brother, Andre.
Thank you, Professor Mazwe. Good afternoon, everybody. I share an experience with Professor Mpedi for being disciplined by my mother for money spent on sweets, not on what I was instructed to use it for. And yes, I got a hiding from my mother and my grandmother. But I think I share the experience because credibility, I was taught that by the people who loved me. Integrity, intimacy came with that. It was offered in the most intimate way, as well as you will be reliable. You will serve this family, this community. And then I took that into life. So I think the Book of Proverbs is a beautiful practical principles. Thank you for starting us off on practical principles, because that's what Proverbs is. And my acronym on the Bible, and I'm not a practicing Christian anymore, but I always go back to that beautiful book as basic instructions before leaving earth. I was taught that acronym. You need to take the instructions from this thing called basic instructions before leaving earth. But I think the one thing that's very clear is that more and more self-orientation, this thing of taking care of oneself and not others, is our challenge. And the youngsters today didn't learn the credibility, reliability, and integrity minus the self-orientation. Actually, the example being offered from the highest office of the presidency of the world, and I'm not mentioning name, is one of, hey, worry about yourself and don't worry about anyone else. That for me is where we have bankrupted this leadership conversation. We've bankrupted the principle. We've bankrupted what's practically been happening. And I think that slippery slide is something that those of us like yourself, Professor Mpedi, are trying to push back on. It's hard to win back trust. Now, for me, trust, I was taught, it's an equation of credibility plus reliability plus integrity divided by self-orientation. You're going to be high on those and low on this one. So I think, thank you, that for me, trust is the ultimate human currency. And more as I journey, if we have leaders that don't trust themselves, that don't inspire trust, that don't live trust, that don't live that principle practically, then I think it's hard. And I kid you not, in my own family, and I've got 4 adult children. Thank you, by the way. My daughter graduated from UJ, cum laude, honors, PG DIP, digital transformation. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I love it when I meet the colleagues who are educating my own kids. I'll be at the graduation in May. I'll come and shake your hand because, but I think your example is beautiful. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anything there, Prof Mpedi?
I'm a happy man, and I'd say where I might have messed up, I hope you'll forgive me. I started by saying I'm a sinner that is always trying to do right. It can only take Professor Majola to make a man confess a sin that he committed when he was 6 or 7. But, you know, I didn't turn out badly. And I thank you, leaders. I always say you can never be perfect as a leader. But let's continue to do our best. Leadership is never easy. But let's hang in there, because today it's a fashionable thing that leaders should be kicked left, right, and center. But let's continue to do our best to keep our institutions going. There are people who are relying on us and to draw inspiration from us, seeing us, you know, continuing to do our best, you know, for the good of our institutions, our communities, our countries. So thank you so much for your leadership and also for joining in. And Prof Majola, keep on doing the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, my professor. Thank you. May I invite my professor there, Prof Zide, to thank you, and then we close the session after that. Over to you, my professor.
Okay, thank you very much, my professor. And I also want to extend our profound gratitude to Professor Mpedi. What an exciting and instructive presentation, Prof Mpedi. You know, you have really made a wonderful and a thought-provoking presentation for taking us through your own leadership odyssey from the humble beginnings to where you are today. And so as I was listening to you, I said to myself, I never thought so much about the book of the Proverbs. And fortunately, you have given us, and me in particular, a homework, because I'm preaching on Sunday and I've been grappling with the kind of text that I would try to preach to the congregants. And so now with this thought-provoking presentation, I will definitely know where to find the text. Professor Mpedi, you have seamlessly weaved together the leadership values in your presentation. Putting these leadership values together, I think Professor Chiome also mentioned that, you know, in your presentation, whilst you were talking about integrity, but at the same time, you weaved trust by your examples and honesty, flexibility, accountability, empowerment and development, transparency and credibility, and vision and purpose. You know, you put these together in a very simple way. And I like the humility which Prof Majola always refers to, that we are humbled, you know, with your humility. And indeed, that kind of humility is demonstrated in your presentation. And so thank you so much for also for showing us the books you have written. And by the way, I did not quite get the second book, but I do have the first one, which I have quoted, you know, in some of my works, which I will share with Prof Majola, because before my book on ethical leadership and governance goes wide and wild, I think it would be good of me to share it with my leader, Prof Majola, who has, by the way, been such a wonderful brother to me. You know, whilst I'm thanking you, I think it would be amiss if I don't thank Prof Majola for the kind of work that he's doing, not only for Wild, but certainly for the country. You know, I also liked your reference to you being just a sinner. As we all know, Madiba, in one of his many motivational speeches, always says that if by a saint you refer to a sinner who always and consistently tries his level best to do the best he can, then I am a saint. But I want to confess that I am a sinner who tries to improve the very best that he can. And finally, my professor, what really touched me, and I think everybody here, is recognizing your mother as the first executive leader. I think all of us, maybe only a few, would move away from that example. And I always say that when I got my doctorate some many years ago, I can't even remember, my late uncle was there, who was responsible for my junior degree. You know, I thanked him, etc., etc. But by the time I got my doctorate, my mother was no more. But I said, I dedicate this degree to my mother, because she was the woman behind me all the time, praying and praying and praying. And so, indeed, what a recognition you have given to your mother. And I think one of these days, we really need to celebrate our women, as a matter of fact, which we have done. And finally, yes, thank you also for saying to us, we have to lead by example. We have to walk the talk. Very few people do that, and they concentrate so much on what I call corporate hyenas. You know, the people who will always try to pull you down when you don't bow to their iniquities. And so for that, my professor, thank you ever so much. May God bless you, and may God bless you, Jay, as you continue to lead not only you, Jay, but this country. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, my professor. Back to you. Thank you. Bye.
And thank you very much, my professor. Thank you for the kind words, and to Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Those who were joining us for the first time, please do note we meet every Wednesdays. Next week, Wednesday, we'll be here with a powerful speaker and with a powerful topic. We meet as leaders, as Prof Mpedi quoted one of the verses there, as the iron sharpens another eye, is what we are doing. So as leaders, empower, develop each other, we will grow. So thank you so much for joining us. Definitely you attend these sessions. There's no way you wouldn't like to come back, because these are master classes. We grow together. Can you imagine, as I said that last year, just having plus minus 50 sessions participated by or attended by close to 3,000 people, with a lot of speakers that were here, different topics. Definitely, yeah, there's no way you not lag. So as leaders, we need to empower each other. We need to develop each other. Dr. Mgolozeli, if my brother there, I saw someone there who wants to get to be included in our mailing list. Can you do me a favor, Doc? Maybe if you can just take those information or details so that we can include him in our mailing list. So yeah, those who were our first time, we hope to see you again. Or there are those who attended for the first time, we hope to see you again next week. As I've already advertised, that next week we'll be hosting Dr. Mike Masiopato. He's done a great work there at the Border Management Authority. We just want to know, you'll be telling us, giving us some updates, what is happening there. Even the challenges they have, because we, as leaders, we've got to assist each other and see how we can support each other so that our own must succeed in whatever place has been put. Let me thank my brother, my Professor Mpedi. Obviously, Prof Zid has said mouthful. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. We know that you're always there. And as I've said, that for the last 3 years now, this is our 4th year, you've been opening our ears every year. We've been doing that. And we've been doing that with aplomb. And thank you so much that we've been doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is adjourned now until we meet again next week, Wednesday. May God bless you, and may God bless Africa. Nkosi sigelela Africa izwe lethu. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you and goodbye. Bye.